All right, this is one. This is one of the easiest picks I've ever made. Texas is loaded. Texas is number one. They have a Manning at quarterback. Poor Ohio State. They ain't got a chance. Give me my first love.
What is up, my Sabronis? This is episode 3 of the Sabo Standard podcast, and this is a very special one because no longer are we doing college football preview shows, no longer are we doing NFL preview shows. We are getting into results of big-time games, of the greatest first week of college football we may have ever seen in our entire lives. Some great games, some great upsets, some great teams, some great moments, some great memories. I got a lot to talk about. It was a very busy, fun, wild weekend watching college football. That weekend quite isn't over because there's still one game going on. And boy, was I wrong on some aspects. And that's just some big things to talk about. It's like, where was I right? Where was I wrong? Because a lot of you guys give me a flag for LSU. Who said LSU's not going to be that good. LSU's not that good, man. LSU looked pretty good the other night. They played really well with Clemson. And so we'll talk about that game. We'll talk about all these games. But I think the first one, obviously, we have to start with is the big one. Really, 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 really great game, really crazy environment. And so after we get through our little intro, we will get into talking about week one. So with that being said, let's get into it.
Samuel cuts it back. Ohio State wins. Hannum steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Pulls up three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good!
The standard is the standard. That's our motto.
All right, man. What a great weekend of college football. Really, just overall with everything that happened with Corso and the games that went on. Like I said, some wild upsets. So we'll start with that one in Columbus. I went down to the game Saturday morning. Got there about 9 o'clock, which is usually when I get there when games have game day. And this one was unlike anything I've ever seen. It stretched from St. John's Arena, where they do game day, to basically the North Rotunda, where the band enters. There was no way of getting across. You had to get there at 5 a.m. to even be able to get near it. It was insanely packed. It was beyond the most amount of people I've ever seen at game day, and I get it for a special reason. I honestly wish we've got there a little earlier to be able to get close by and see what was going on. But we worked our way into the stadium, and obviously, you guys, if you were watching on College Game Day, you watched on Fox, Big Noon Kickoff, they even showed it. And within the stadium, something they never do is show what the TV broadcast was, and they had Corso, as he spoke and did that last pick that you guys heard at the beginning, did it out loud for the whole stadium to hear. And I'm telling you, it was one of the loudest moments of the game was when he said, "Give me my first love," puts that Brutus on his head. That place just went nuts. And it was one of the loudest moments of the game, and that stadium was loud the entire time. That game was insane. Honestly, I expected the under. I think the under was like 44.5, maybe 55.5. I don't even know. I could be wrong on both those numbers, but I knew to take the under. I knew that it was going to be low scoring, very similar to how the last one was. I did not expect this low scoring. Ohio State obviously, scored first in the second quarter with a 1-yard run by Donaldson. 14-0 at one point, late in the game. Carnell Tate has a really, really great catch to go 14-0, and Texas, scored at the end and had a chance to go and tie, and obviously didn't end up losing 14-7. But what a great environment. And everybody's going to crap on Arch Manning. I think that he played very poorly. I expect him to win the Heisman this year. I still think there's a chance that can be done if he responds well these last few weeks. But it was also a game that, hey, maybe just doesn't deserve it. Can he be great? Sure. Is he inevitable to be a Dallas Cowboy next year? If you listen to my NFL preview, you'll see what I'm talking about. I think there's a chance that he's still a really good draft pick. But to win the Heisman, he had to come in Columbus and play well, and he didn't. And I don't think that's a knock on him not being good, because we don't know. I mean, we obviously really don't know. Any speculation of him winning a Heisman was because he's a Manning and how great both Peyton and Eli were, and you would figure that those intangibles would stick with them. But I think it was just a tale of how great Ohio State's defense was. And on the flip side, Ohio State didn't do much on offense. They didn't ask Sayin to do a lot. They weren't expecting Sayin to go out there and win that game. They let the offense win that game. They tried to set the run game up. The run game's a little different without Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, obviously. Donaldson and Peoples both have to find their way. But the receivers, they did what they were supposed to. They caught balls that they should have, and Jeremiah Smith had 2 drops. And when that happens, the offense isn't going to be as explosive, but you didn't need Sayin to be explosive. You need that defense to play really well, and Texas' defense played really well. It was a battle of the 2 best defenses in the country. I believe that. Ohio State's defense, I'm going to say, is number 1. Texas defense is number 2. They did not allow Ohio State to get anything. The fact that Carnell Tate was as open as he was just a great play call right there, and what they needed that moment to basically lock it at that point. But I think that both those teams are going to win a lot of games. Could Texas fall off? Sure. I mean, we've seen Texas do these things. What big game have they really won the last, since 2005? That's what, the argument is. That's what I kind of said, in the description of week 1 over the college football preview episode. But realistically, this is a really good team. That defense is not going to let teams score on them, just like Ohio State didn't score on them. And if I'm the Buckeyes and these teams meet again, like I told you in my preview, I think if they meet again, Texas would win it all. I thought Ohio State was going to win this one in that environment. Corso there, obviously we didn't know that that's how it was going to go, and that the making the pick like that. I mean, just again, unreal environment. So cool to see. But these 2 teams play again, it's going to be hard to pick the Buckeyes because Texas was that good. One last thing, Corso-wise, it's as long as I've been watching college football. Obviously, he's been around College Game Day. I was on there before I was born. Their first, show, they went to 1 Miami, 2 Notre Dame, or 1 Notre Dame, 2 Miami, something like that. Or maybe Florida State, maybe. Florida State, Notre Dame, Florida State, Miami. Two of those 3 teams. They went live, and then obviously the first one where he did the headgear was in Columbus with Herb Street. Ohio State, Penn State. He put Brutus on his head, and obviously it started something that's been going on for a long time. All I've known with Game Day, obviously, is Corso. But even over these last few years, he misses episodes. He wasn't there every single week, so it's something we've got used to. And I'll be the first to admit, it almost felt like it was time to be done eventually. He was hard to listen to. He was hard to watch. And I, with being part of high school football and JV games and films and stuff on Saturday mornings, my Game Day exposure has been a lot less over these years. But when the season's done, it's on my TV every Saturday morning as we gear up, and it was difficult to watch. And so for them to recognize that, for him to recognize that, and they go out, instead of just being done last year, giving him one more episode, one more time in Columbus. He says, easiest pick he's ever made. And we all knew as soon as that game was in Columbus what that headgear was going to be. Ohio State could have been the worst team in the country. He was picking Ohio State that day. And he knew he was talking about that day because he picked a lot of teams. Every team that he coached and played for, they went 6 for 6. He didn't pick all those. But he picked another big upset, and that was Florida State and Alabama. And holy crap. Talk about a disappointing game for Alabama, and talk about turning the tide for Florida State. I mean, Bama they looked flat. They looked defeated. They looked miserable. Florida State just came out flying. And it was 31-17, and honestly, it felt more than 2 touchdowns the entire time. Florida State, a really bad year last year, guys. So disappointing. 2-10, losing Georgia Tech week 1 in Ireland. All right, we can accept it. Tough game, different environment, really physical opponent, but they just didn't respond. And to come out week 1, Tommy Castellanos, the transfer from Boston College, I mean, he was just explosive, and he was fun to watch, and he made Bama pay all night long. He threw the ball well. He rushed the ball well. He was electric. He was mean. He was nasty. And if you're Alabama, I mean, I don't know what you're thinking. Last year was a disappointing year. Yeah, it's the first year without Saban. But I thought DeBoer is a good coach. I said that in the preview episode. I thought that he's everywhere he's gone, he's won games. He's contended. He's brought teams back. And not saying that's over, but they just have a schedule in front of them that, if you can't get past Florida State, can you get past the others? And even other trap games like South Carolina, they lost that one last year. Vanderbilt, I'm not saying they lose to Vanderbilt, but it could be a game. If you can't beat Florida State, Tennessee, LSU, like those are tough games that they have to win to even get to a chance to be in the playoffs, because with one, okay, but 2, 3, 4 build up, and it's not happening with 3 or 4. I don't think that they're good enough. I think there's too much talent around, so they could only afford to lose one more of those other ones, and I don't see that happen anymore. I think they can respond, but let's say they don't. They lose 3, 4, 5 games. Are people calling for Kalen DeBoer's head? Does he just leave on his own? I mean, it's hard to be the guy that replaces the guy, and you want to kind of almost be that second person to take over that job. I mean, the only place it seems like that's easy to do is Ohio State. Urban takes over for Jim Tressel, wins a championship within 3 years. Ryan Day takes over for Urban, and contending for championships very early on, and finally got one last year after in year 6. But it was never a point where Ohio State wasn't contending. Everywhere else, like, it's really, really, really hard to keep that going every single week. And then for Florida State, like, how good really are they? I think they're electric. I think they can win the ACC. I think they could beat Clemson. And I think if they win the ACC, obviously they're going to be in the playoff if they're ACC champs. Is there a loss on their schedule? Probably. I think that they obviously they're going to play Florida. I think they play Miami this year also, and so the schedule's not the easiest in the road. But if you could go beat Alabama, like, I think you can also beat other teams that can win enough games that maybe they find themselves in that playoff. And last year was just a fluke, and people were calling for Norvell's head. I get it. Like, you go 13-0, then you lose to Georgia in the that playoff game, or not the bowl game. And yeah, it's weird. Like, everybody, Keon Coleman opt out. Obviously, Jordan Travis was hurt. You lost everybody, but you get smoked. You just get smoked to embarrassment. But it is what it is after that grave a season. And then last year's such a collapse, such a bad season, such a disappointing season. How can they respond? And they responded well, and they can definitely compete for ACC championship and make the playoff. Speaking of ACC and SEC, LSU and Clemson, all you jabronis that said, man, LSU's not that good, why you got LSU so high? I'll tell you why I had LSU high, because that defense was going to be better, and that defense just shut down Clemson, and I think that defense is going to play like that all year. They just looked more sound, they played physical, and they are going to stop some high-powered teams. Is it going to be perfect? No. Are they going to have games where they give up some points? Sure. But if you can go into Clemson, you can go to Death Valley, in that environment with a good Clemson team. I mean, this is the best Clemson team since Trevor Lawrence's year that they won it. I'm not saying it's as good as that team, but it's the best team he's had since then. And LSU went in there to their Death Valley, and they played a very competitive, very physical game, and they won, and they came out with only 17 points. I think the offense is going to play better. But again, I think this is Clemson's best defense. It just feels like a Clemson defense that they used to have. Really good, solid defensive linemen. Their secondary just plays physical. They got a linebacker that just is a big, mean, nasty guy. And so for LSU to outplay them defensively and score a little bit more on offense with Cade Klubnik there, who's a good quarterback. I mean, it was a really impressive game by LSU. I think LSU is really good, and I think Clemson is still really, really good. Like, I think Clemson's going to win a lot of games. If you give me a Clemson-Florida State ACC championship game, oh, man, I mean, that might be the best matchup we could possibly get in the championship weekend at that point. Obviously, there's a lot of time to tell between now and then, but that's going to be a fun game. I don't know those guys play each other off the top of my head, but if we get to that point, they do, and they're two really, really, really good teams, and they're going to be fighting for, possibly knocking the other out of the chance to even win an AC championship. It'll be fun. Some other big games, or big teams that played big games. Penn State destroyed Nevada. We kind of expected that. They have FIU this week, and so they don't have any tough games early on, and it is what it is. We'll see Penn State's best when they play Ohio State, when they play the other top teams that they do play, Indiana. That's when we'll know about Penn State. Not when they're playing Nevada, not when they're playing FIU. They did what we expected them to do. Michigan, New Mexico, Underwood. I looked good. He looked athletic. It is what it is. I think that we'll see Michigan's true strength when they play Oklahoma this week. I'm excited for that game. We'll do an episode later on this week talking about predictions for this week. So I'm not going to get too much into next week's stuff, but fun game for them coming up, and we'll see how good they actually are. Miami, Notre Dame, Sunday night. I thought Notre Dame was going to win it. Miami was running away with it for a little while. Notre Dame obviously came back and made it a game. Tied it up. Miami got the ball back with under 2 minutes left. Carson Beck let them down, got in field goal range, and they kicked a game-winning field goal. I think Carson Beck played well. I expected him to kind of struggle, I think, against a good Notre Dame defense. But they were. He threw the ball well, and he did what he did his first 2 years at Georgia, and looked much different than he did last year. So good for Carson Beck. And I mean, again, you take Miami, ACC, like those are three good teams. And maybe I was a little low on Miami. Do all three make it? Nope, they're gonna knock each other off at some point, and so it'll be fun to watch that. Notre Dame, I mean, the schedule's not overly hard. Obviously, they're gonna have USC at some point. They should win enough games, even 10-2. Does that give them the playoffs? Probably. But maybe not. Who knows? CJ Carr played poor, I think, early on, and then played better. I realized. I think I knew, but I didn't realize at the time. Son of Lloyd Carr, and so Michigan man. I was kind of rooting for him, and I heard that. I was like, do I really care? Probably not. The last big game, that I want to talk about, obviously North Carolina, TCU. North Carolina comes out, scores 7-0 right away, and then TCU just blew the brakes off of them. Everything I said about Bill Belichick in the North Carolina Tar Heels, dead wrong. I mean, that one was one dead wrong on. They're not winning. They are not making the ACC championship game. They'll be lucky to make a bowl game. That team is really, really, really bad right now. Can Bill build it up? Maybe. Who knows? But wow, not a good start. Not a good look to begin the season for them. For the Fighting Bill Belichick, because that was just embarrassing. All right, so I kind of gave you these recaps, and as I do these recaps, I'm thinking like, who are the top teams? Who impressed me enough? Who lost and still is good? Like, again, I think Texas is really, really, really good. They lost to a really, really great team, and it was a close game. It was a physical game. Texas isn't going to be destroyed in the rankings because of it. They shouldn't. On the flip side, like, Penn State won by a lot, but I think Ohio State, you don't put Ohio State as number one, like, you didn't watch the game. I think offense is going to be, like, they got Grambling in Ohio the next few weeks. If they don't score 42 each one, then you could be worried about, staying in the offense and Jeremiah Smith and all these things. Like, no, it was a great Texas defense. The Ohio State defense is great. Put Ohio State as the best team in the country. That's how it should be. They are the best team in the country. And I think number 2 is LSU. Like, I know they had them at 9 originally. I had LSU much higher. If you don't put LSU at 2, whatever, put Penn State at 2, that's fine. Put Oregon at 2, put Georgia at 2, whatever. I think those teams are good, but we just haven't seen enough yet of competing at the highest level. I think LSU is really, really physical. I think that defense is good. They win. They won a big game. Miami, they could be up there. I just, it's so hard. Like, Penn State is within that top 3, top 4. I had them, obviously I won last week, but I just watch these games, and for anybody to say Ohio State's not the best team in the country right now, like, it's not even biased. It's just the fact. Like, they had the best weekend. They had an amazing environment. They played the best team at the time, and they beat them, and they should be won. And then, whatever order, Penn State 2, LSU 2, Penn State 3, Clemson doesn't need to drop far. Put them at 6. Like, put Texas at 5. Like, they're still the best teams. And I'm interested to just see where they put Florida State, like, with that big win. Where do they put them? And not just a big win, but they played well doing it. They look good doing it. They should be a top team as well. There you have it, guys. I mean, this is short, sweet, under 20-minute long episode. Just kind of recapping, my thoughts on week 1. We'll give you another one later on this week. Like I said, kind of previewing some of these games. If you listen to the NFL preview episode, that is going to be just kind of both college football, NFL, my thoughts on things, my thoughts on, just the weekend in general with having both games. I will give you both in one big, longer episode, closer to 30, 40 minutes. I just wanted to come on here, talk my nonsense for, it says 20 minutes. I mean, it might not even be that after cut and edited, but I just such a good weekend, such an amazing environment of games. Columbus was absolutely rocking. If you get a chance to go to Ohio State game, I've always been one to kind of complain about the stadium, things that just feel old. It felt different this week. It definitely did, and I don't think it was just Corso. I think there's things that they're trying to do in the stadium to make it a better, cooler place, like, some of the SEC crowds. It was a lot of fun. So good chance, go to a game this year. Enjoy it. If you made it this far, appreciate you for listening. Thanks for, giving this episode a listen to, as always. And kind of my last thing, just real quick, I guess I'm rambling on. I'm rambling. I have these ideas, these things I want to say every single time, and I don't. This has been something I've been wanting to do again for a long time. I say that kind of every episode, and I do mean that. I have a lot of fun doing this. I think about it a lot. Maybe a little too much, spend the time in the basement after the kid goes to bed, just trying to get some good stuff out onto the microphone. Not every episode's perfect. I get that. The voice is going out. This is kind of the second one I've recorded today, just trying to get these pushed out because we were up all night long with him last night. The voice is gone. The allergies are kicking in. Everything's kicking my butt. But I do appreciate you guys listening to this. I do appreciate, the following and kind of just trying to build something. And so I want to continue to build this. I want to grow into something cool, something fun, and I need you guys for that. My Instagram followers, it seems to be the biggest place that's seeing some growth, but I hope to get it on TikTok. I'm really trying with the video on YouTube and stuff. But the most important thing you can do is just share with somebody. Send this link to somebody that loves college football, loves the NFL, and loves listening to some jabroni who really doesn't have, a lot of, I don't know, whatever I'm missing on it, but share it with somebody, send it to a friend, tell them, give it a listen to, leave a 5-star. I have a lot of 5 stars, but I don't actually have any reviews yet. I got one on Apple, my boy Jacob Chambers. Other than that, give the 5-star, leave the review, follow on the social medias. I'm really trying to push those out. Just something that I'm learning, something I'm adjusting to, something that I'm just trying to build up and grow to set the standard. This is, the Sabo standard. We are trying to set a standard around here. What that standard is at this point, man, I don't even know. But just trying to grow that standard, always trying to set the standard because, like Mike Tomlin always says, the standard is the standard.